What's up everyone, and welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, Karens, and all that kind of stuff. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Make sure to subscribe for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. Never call you again? Okay, done. About a dozen years ago, I was working in a banking call center. The company was informed of some governmental change that required us to have a tax ID number for everyone with our business credit card account, and we had some ridiculously short time frame to be in compliance. There were tens of thousands of accounts with this ID missing. It hadn't been previously required. A big group of us were given lists of customers and told to call them and ask for the tax ID number. If they had it, we added it to the account and all was well. If they didn't have it, we were to switch them to a consumer non-business card. If they didn't want that, we'd cancel on the spot. Due to the short time frame for compliance, the customer had to tell us on the call which they preferred. Another nifty caveat was that we were only making 2 calls and were not leaving messages. We couldn't drag this out waiting for people to eventually call us back. If we got the person on the first call, we were done. If we still didn't get them on the second call either, the account was auto-canceled. This sounds like a horrible job to do, but it was actually going really well. 99% of the people I called were happy to comply or switch accounts. Then I called Karen. The phone rang and rang, and I was about to hang up when I heard that pause and double ring that tells you the call was forwarded, so I waited. "What?" Karen said. I could hear background noise like she was out in public. "Hi, this is Jane Doe with X Bank, and..." "Why the f*** are you calling my cell phone? Are you f***ing stupid? I've told you people to never call this number." "I didn't. The call was..." "OMG, now you're going to lie to me? Pay attention. Never call me again. I use your credit card for everything and pay it, so you have no reason to call me. Got it?" "Yes, but..." Phone disconnects. Malicious compliance kicks off. "Okay, so I spoke to you maybe a dozen words. You didn't provide your tax ID and I can't call you back because you said to never do that." Next button, cancel. Notes: customer did not provide the tax ID and demanded we never call her again. I really hope she was out shopping and had fun when her card was declined at the next store. You want to call my mom because I don't want to die? Okay, call her. I was recently reminded of something that happened when I was a kid. For context, I have an extremely bad peanut and tree nut allergy. If I eat or touch peanuts or nuts, I can go into anaphylactic shock, meaning my throat closes up and basically I'll choke to death. I carry an EpiPen with me at all times because of this. I had this teacher who hated children, like the type of teacher who yells at kids if they get something incorrect. For the sake of keeping everything anonymous, I'll call her Mrs. Idiot. I was in 1st grade, and by this time I had a good grasp on how bad my peanut and nut allergy was. Always read labels, never ate others' home-cooked meals, and that I shouldn't trust someone just because they say, "I don't think it has nuts in it." If you don't know, then don't offer those foods to small children who may not know any better. It was 1st grade, and I was having fun coloring something on paper waiting for my teacher. As I was finishing drawing, my teacher got out a fun activity worksheet involving candy. If I remember correctly, it involved counting or something math-related. As she was passing out the worksheets and candy, I noticed that they were M&Ms, which I'm allergic to. The interaction went something like this. I said, "Mrs. Idiot, I can't have these, I'm allergic." And Mrs. Idiot says, "They're original M&Ms, they don't have peanuts in them." But my mom says I'm allergic to the originals too. "They're fine, you can have them." To this day, I don't know why a teacher would ever tell a kid with allergies to eat something the kid thinks or knows they're allergic to. Also, while original M&Ms don't have peanuts or nuts directly in them, they're made on the same equipment as peanut M&Ms. This exchange went on for a while, with the idiotic teacher telling me that they're fine, and me saying they're not. I think the teacher actually believed I was purposely trying to annoy her. Mrs. Idiot says, "If you don't start behaving, I'm going to call your mother and you will be in big trouble." Younger me realized that my mom was just going to say the same thing. Instead of telling her that, I sat there and smiled at the teacher and said, "Okay, call her." I remember wondering why the teacher just didn't believe me. Looking back, that teacher definitely hated being told she was wrong, especially by a 1st grader. The idiot teacher looked annoyed but smug. I guess thinking that my mom would yell at me for not wanting to die, or having a giant needle put in my thigh and being rushed to the hospital. Now, I don't know the full exchange between my mom and the idiot teacher, because this was so long ago and my mom doesn't remember what exactly was said, just that she was extremely angry. I know she tore into my teacher because everyone who was present in class could hear my mom yelling through the phone. I think for the first time ever I saw my idiotic teacher actually nervous. After my mom tore the teacher a new one, the teacher brought me to the corner of the room and handed me a bag of Skittles, which she apparently had the entire time. It sucked being alone for the activity, but I happily did my assignment eating my packet of Skittles, knowing full well my teacher was seething at her desk, annoyed that a 7-year-old knew better than she did. Later it was revealed that my mom sent an email to the school's principal, which luckily for the idiotic teacher's case was my mom's second draft and had nicer words in it. That teacher had to do a refresher course on allergies, which was shown to her already at the beginning of the year. I guess my school was desperate for teachers because she continued to teach at that school, even though she had other incidents. As much as I'd like to say I ate the M&Ms and watched as her career tanked, blowing up like a Thanksgiving Day parade balloon, I did not. As the wise Sid the Sloth said, "No thanks, I choose life." Building a fence to keep out my neighbors. Earlier this year, I, 26 female, got an inheritance from a family member and it was a godsend. I finally got to move out and get my own place after living paycheck to paycheck. My dream place. I could never get a place like this without Providence or cutting my way through the corporate ladder with a machete. But the most important part is the pool. I love it. I'd swim every day if the weather let me. It has helped me get in great shape. The problem comes from the neighbors. Mark and Kaylee have 3 kids. Brad, 16 male, Chad, 14 male, and Leia, 11 female. They started out friendly enough, especially Kaylee, who's dripping with housewife yoga PTA energy. She told me about a week after I moved in over a plate of cookies that the prior owners of the house were an older couple who let her kids use the pool whenever they wanted, because their kids were out of the house and they didn't like quiet. I, on the other hand, love quiet. I am introverted, I love my privacy. First thing I did when I moved in was put up curtains. I told her I was uncomfortable with that arrangement, but perhaps they could come over occasionally if they don't abuse the privilege. Cue the children abusing the privilege all summer. Every time I was out swimming, it would not be long before Chad and Brad would run over and jump in, followed by Leia with her floaties. And being teenage boys, they'd always want to roughhouse or gape at me and my friends when we'd get out of the pool and make gross comments. This would be tolerable if it happened once a week. They even brought friends a couple of times, and more than a couple of times I've had to tell them that they need to leave because I was with adults doing adult things, drinking, etc. So now I'm putting up a fence for 2 reasons. 1, I'm getting a dog. 2, I want my privacy. Kaylee ran out of their house when she saw me and a couple of friends hammering in the fence and digging holes for privacy hedges. I made sure everything was within regulation and right on the property line. She said if I put up a fence, it'd be harder for her kids to come over and play. I said, yup. She asked if I was planning on putting a gate between our yards. I said, nope. Finally, she asked, a little choked up, if I was depriving her kids of our pool. Our pool? I told her how in the beginning I had said they could use the pool as long as they did not abuse the privilege, and they did. I said now they can only come over if invited. She told me they were going to be crushed and saw me as a big sister. I told her no teenage boy looks at their sister the way those boys looked at me and my friends. She took huge offense to that, and it might have been gross to hear, but so were the comments on my bikini from her boys. It's too much. I'm not their babysitter and I have every right to my privacy, but some people have been saying the fence is too much and I'm going to hurt the kids' feelings. Invite people behind my back, then get stranded. This is a story about my Aunt Kay, which happened around 2018. A relative had died and my mom and I were going to their wake. We're in the Philippines, so the wake is 2 to 3 weeks. My mom goes first to help set up the wake, and I would go in our car to pick up an elderly relative, Nana. Nana and the dead relative were sisters, but since she has mobility issues, traveling is a no-go. My vehicle is a big help for her. Pick her up and then we'll take the boat. Schedule is, I pick up other relatives, then Aunt Kay, then Nana. The other relatives aren't important here as they were mostly spectators to what happened. I've been driving for about 5 hours and set to pick up Kay. She tells me the location and I waited there for about an hour. We were good on time, but I hated being made to wait. She arrives, along with 8 other women, each lugging a backpack and suitcase. My car can seat 8 people including the driver, and then luggage in the back. Before Kay, there was me, 3 relatives, and their luggage. I've made sure there's more than enough room for Nana as she requires a wheelchair and 1 person accompanying her. I ask Kay what the hell she was doing, and she tells me they're ready. I just stare at her, contemplating whether the violence would be physical or verbal. She tells me that she told her gal friends that she's going on a trip, and then asked them if they wanted to go. They all said yes. I don't know what else she told them, but apparently, I'd be the one paying for their fare and other accommodations, as they kept cooing at me for being so generous. I wasn't happy with her, mainly because she's treating this as a fun vacation when it isn't. The other passengers in the car aren't happy with her, but they know to keep their mouth shut. Not because they don't want to get involved, but because Kay becomes a screaming banshee when told she's wrong. I told her off for expecting me to fund her gal vacation and for disrespecting the nature of our trip. There were so many things I wanted to say, but I wanted to get away before I said anything else I'd regret later. Then petty revenge. So I calmly gave her enough money for the taxi and boat fare, then sped off. I had no problem paying for everything for the trip, but I wasn't going to do that for people I don't know. I'm not a pushover. She did try to run after me, but she only got a few steps before giving up. Now you're probably wondering why I'd give her money at all. It's because I know she'll give a sob story to everyone in the family chat. If I'm asked what I did, I'd tell them I did give her money for the trip. Then she'd be told, OP gave you money, didn't he? Then what's the problem? I picked Nana up, and when she asked where Kay was, I told her the entire event. All Nana said was that she never liked the drunk bitch. When I arrived at the wake, my mom asked me what happened, and after explaining myself, she just went to playing cards. Kay arrived a week later. She had to beg mom for money as she gave her friends what I gave her as an apology. Turns out she didn't bring any other cash with her. She had to pay for her gal pal's trip back home, and then gave them some cash as an apology. She actually waited for me for about an hour thinking I'd turn back. When her sobbing and whining in the family chat got her nothing but a verbal RKO, she sent a long video of herself crying on the sidewalk. The entire wake and funeral and days after, she was giving me the stink eye and complaining about me to everyone she could. Mostly everyone ignored her, so she would then go and get drunk instead. Nana enjoyed herself, cried a lot. She's still alive now, despite nearing 90, and aside from her mobility problems, she's in good health. To this day, Kay still hasn't told me what made her think inviting 8 people without informing me and expecting me to pay for them all was a good idea. Anyway friends, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, I do appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for more Reddit shenanigans. So take care, I'll see you next time.